Spent the morning looking at some numbers for Auburn, G5 edition guys for Auburn and the SEC. It's interesting.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Quick crossover edition with our friends over at The Portal. Brian Smith, host of The Portal, Locked On's recruiting, transfer portal, NIL show. Brian, you and I had a discussion earlier in the week, and I'm like, I want to do the numbers on this. I want to compile the numbers. So as of Friday morning, January 23rd, I went through, looked at all of the teams in the SEC, how many guys they added, how many of those guys are G5 or lower, non-P4 talent, and then what percent of their portal class is this new lower level of competition coming in. And Brian, I thought some of the, I don't know if I want to say attacks, but chatter around Auburn, I thought it was going to be extreme. I thought that the discussion of everybody poking Auburn for being a G5 program now with all this talent, yada, yada, yada. I thought it was going to be extreme. I thought it was going to be closer than it is. I was wrong. It is not close. It is not close. So I'm going to put the numbers up here, and I kind of want you to react. So Auburn leads the way with the highest percentage of G5 additions, 65.7% of their class. They brought in 38. 25 of them are G5 guys. The next closest is South Carolina with 52% and Arkansas with 50%. Your initial reaction to this chart that I've made?
It's a little higher than I would have expected, but Golesh recruited many of those players to University of South Florida.
Right.
He coached them. You're going to take the kids that you, A, trust, and B, have been proven. Mm-hmm. Like if you look, and I know this is the easy low-hanging fruit comparison, but Indiana brought 13 kids, if I remember correctly, from JMU in 24, 8 of which crossed over into 25. Obviously, that worked out well. And I'm not saying anybody's Signetti until otherwise proven he's one of one. But it's the same principle. He brought the kids that he thought could play at Indiana and play in the Big Ten, which is pretty much apples to the SEC talent-wise. So why couldn't it work if you coach it right? And he got some of the key specific positions, like for Alex's offense, you need guys that can really run at receiver. He brought those. He brought the quarterback that can do all of it. The question is some of the linemen. I would look at the linemen and stuff for both schools. That's where it gets really like P4 linemen is usually, as you know, like when Auburn plays somebody G6, where does Auburn usually beat the crap out of them? Between the tackles.
Yeah, trenches on both sides of the ball. Yeah.
100%. If you can find G6, and this is where Indiana won it, they found G6 kids as D linemen and O linemen, and they played. That I don't know what the mathematical formula was, and they got arguably the best O-line coach and all that, but that's the difference. But I don't really worry about the G6 thing because I run into a lot of kids at camps and stuff like that, and some kids that come hang out at them. They're in college. Those kids are hungry, and they're quite honestly ticked off. They're not at Georgia or Auburn, so I'm not worried about it as much as a lot of other people might be.
Yeah, context matters for sure. Bringing guys that you've coached and even other position groups, with those guys coached at previous spots, like they know what they're doing. And I would be more concerned about it if Alex Golesh hadn't have been successful as a coordinator and had an up-close front row seat to what Heupel did at Tennessee. Like he knows what it looks like to win in this conference. And so it's not just some blind jump like we saw, I guess, with Brian Harsin, right? Where he had won elsewhere, but he hadn't won here in the SEC. And so there was kind of a blind jump of, okay, well, if it worked over there, it'll work here. That's not the case. And Golesh touched on that in his opening presser. It was it's really the main answer that stuck with me is he talked about, when he was following Heupel, when he was at UCF and they went to Tennessee, they had to do things differently because of talent, because of scheme, just because of the style of football. And they had to change it back when they went to USF, and they're going to have to change it again now at Auburn. That answer gives me comfort because he does understand it. He does understand that it's different. that it's not a copy and paste situation. And he clearly believes that the guys that he had at USF can be at the same level of what he did as an offensive coordinator when he was at Tennessee, which means if you can win there, you can also win at Auburn. So that context does give me some comfort in this.
Yeah, if he hadn't, I mean, being under Heupel was a big deal because that guy's obviously a legit coach. That helps. And then on top of it, he's walking into Auburn where he's an offensive guy, and Auburn has a lot of defensive talent returning. Yeah. So that helps. I mean, they don't have some of the pieces they may need to win it all next year or something, like Falk turn pro, et cetera. Okay. But it's not like they're void of talent. If they would have been out of that list, like 2/3 of those kids that are coming to Auburn from the G6 were linemen, I'd have a different conversation with you. But the skill position, like the receivers they brought over are dudes. Brown's a dude. They brought, they got enough P4 guys at other spots. I'm not really that concerned about it.
Well, I mean, and I've said the same thing about linemen, but let's go through this. Joe Simmons, JMU. Cole Best, Cole Skinner, USF. Strand. Is he Oregon State or Oklahoma State? I always forget. Oregon State.
That's about the same right now.
Right. And when I counted these, I counted Oregon State as G5, or I guess G6. Jack Lair, ACC. Lower ACC. That's where context matters. Like Joe Simmons, I think, would be a better ad than Jack Lair. But according to this metric that we're using, Lair's P4 and, Simmons isn't. But that's why context matters. And then Stanton Ramil, Michigan State. Kenneth McManus, Akron, and then Derek Plaz and TJ Hendrick, Miami and Ole Miss. So those guys are people. But once again, those are backups. They haven't really played. So would you rather have a guy like that, or would you rather have a Kenneth McManus from Akron who played 500 snaps at left guard last year? Once again, it's this weird balancing act of I don't fully know what you would rather have case by case.
Well, I'll give you an example. The Plaz kid went to Miami, who, by the way, is loaded on the offensive line. Yeah. I saw him play in high school. He's a really athletic kid that had offers from everybody down south.
Right.
He was just in a log jam. He may be a bust because offensive lineman is that you played it. I mean, the deal. It's hard to project. Even 5-star offensive tackles bust. So he was a kid that's from the greater Jacksonville area. Everybody wanted. If you're going to take a chance on a kid that hasn't played, take one that's super athletic and Miami wanted. That's how I look at that. So,
yeah. And TJ Hedrick, he was a top 50 tackle in his class, just depth piece at Ole Miss. So we'll see how those guys pan out. But is this okay? Are these numbers okay? Let's take a stab at that next, right here on Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. What a weekend it will be. College basketball will be absolutely loaded on Saturday. Very excited about that. And of course, Championship Sunday is here. The New England Patriots 4.5-point favorites at the Denver Broncos, and the Rams 2.5-point dogs on the road against the favorite Seattle Seahawks. Of course, both of those teams playing for a chance to go, or all four of those teams playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. They also have a championship series special, which is fun. Lot of different things, like each team to score at least a field goal in both games, or each team to score a rushing touchdown in both games. They've got a fun kind of built-in parlay thing there on their site as well. So head over to FanDuel.com to get started today. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. TurboTax is the best place to do your taxes. Goodness gracious. It's like, I've described it in other shows. It's the first quarter of the year. It almost follows you. It's like a cloud that follows you. You got to do your taxes. You got to do your taxes. TurboTax makes it easy. TurboTax makes it easy. You can just hand it off to a local TurboTax expert. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just make sure you file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. today. Brian Smith, host of The Portal, hanging out with us today. I mean, you've already hinted on this a little bit, and we agree that context does matter when talking about these guys case to case. Like, for instance, when I was counting, there were some schools that had a few guys from Northwestern, and it's like, I think I'd rather have guys from JMU or South Florida than Northwestern. When you talk about like program prestige or the situation of like Joe Simmons from JMU or Jack Lair from Stanford, it's just kind of like, what do you want? What do you want to see? So in your mind, what's your concern level? I mean, Auburn taking a very different route than almost everyone else in the SEC. Your initial thoughts are like, is this okay year one for Alex Golesh and staff?
I think it is because of the kids that he took. If you looked at the percentage of the G6 kids that they took that come from the program that he just represented, how many is it? It's over half, I would assume, or it's at least very close to it. That makes me feel way different than if he was taking kids that were just randomly, one kid from Memphis, one kid from Texas State, like just all over San Jose State, Bowling Green. He's not doing that. So, and again, he's not taking a plethora of guys that are on. There are a few, don't get me wrong. Indiana did that too. Again, they're the one, I don't know how we put them into the equation. They're the biggest anomaly I've ever seen in college athletics. Sure. But everybody now is going to be under that gun. I actually talked about Golesh on one of my live shows the other day. Fair or not, because of what Cignetti did, it has exponentially changed the expectations unfairly, by the way, for everybody else coming in from G6 schools. And Golesh, Summerall, all these different guys coming to the SEC now. It's like, it's hard enough as it is. Oh, by the way, you need to be in like the top 5 or in the country by year 2. It's not realistic, but some people are going to look at it.
But it is possible. I mean, even this isn't the same thing, but like when Brian Kelly took over LSU a few years ago, I mean, he hit in the portal with Jaden Daniels and a bunch of other guys. I mean, they had to totally rebuild that roster. Will Redmond was down there. He was a big part of building that roster. And they nailed it. They won the SEC West. I think it was last year. It was the SEC West when it was divisioned off, and they had a chance. They had a chance to do it. Now you need lightning to strike. You need to catch lightning in a bottle with a guy like Jaden Daniels, but you got to think that Byrun Brown has a chance to be that guy for Auburn.
I said it the other day, and I know like some people laughed at me. I think he's one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league this next year, because I'm just going by what Cignetti did, and I've seen it with my own eyes.
Took off. My bad on that. My bad on your notifications there.
I don't really care about that because people side with what they want to hear on X. The 3% dominate those kinds of apps. So the moron brigade, as I like to call them. But at the same time, Brown's proven 3,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing. I don't care if he did it in Siberia. That is still incredible. So I think he will be just fine, and he knows the offense. He's got the same guys he's throwing to. And now all of a sudden, Auburn's running back room. Where would you rank Auburn's running back room now? I mean, it's got to be up there in the SEC.
It's got to be top 3. You see they added another guy, Tay Meadows.
I don't know who that is even.
Troy, running back from Troy.
Oh, okay. That's a program. And
another senior, which is kind of interesting.
He's trying to score a ton of points this next year. He gets Brown for 1 year. So because he's like, they know this next season, you get Brown 1 year, then he's going to try to take his talents in the National Football League. They're going all in on that. I don't know if they'll have enough defensively to hold up, but they're going to score.
Yeah.
They're going to be fun to watch.
I'm still concerned about the pass rush. We'll see what they do there, but and we got to see what they do on the O-line. As you talked about, like I said it going forward, like when I said at the beginning of the window that bring all the South Florida guys you do, be like, I just wouldn't go crazy in the trenches. And there's a lot of questions on the O-line. I've said it before, like I think the answer is there. They're just going to have to figure that out. But I mean, there's a lot of non-P4 guys in this O-line room. A lot of guesses, a lot of assumptions. But they've added so many guys that have upsides in different ways where like, okay, you've bought a few lottery picks. Let's see what happens. Can you win?
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. I mean,
yeah,
if they don't score over 30 points a game next year, it would be pretty disappointing. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, be a nice jump for sure. Brian Smith, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Check out the Portal Podcast wherever you get your pods. The same way you consume Locked On Auburn, you can consume the Portal, Spotify, Apple, and of course YouTube, all those fun places.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.